Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So this is the first installment in a Q&A series that I'm doing with some backcountry campers and canoe people. Unfortunately, this first segment is going to have to be presented as a podcast because I had some some problems recording the video. But I figured that it was more important to actually listen to the answers to the questions that I'm asking people instead of just watching, two floating heads on a video message. So anyway, I hope you stick around to listen. My first installment is with Kelly Grant Bosco, aka Kellycamps. And I think she had some really interesting things to say. So I hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed immensely talking to her. It was nice to hear the opinion of somebody else on questions that just made me curious, kind of thing. So anyway, stay tuned and hope you enjoy. Thanks. Okay, so hey everybody, welcome to my channel, The Other Guy in the Canoe, or the OG in the canoe as it stands now. I'm here with Kelly Grant Bosco, otherwise known as Kellycamps. We kind of met over a chat group in Facebook. I made a comment because she bought the same boat that I did, and I actually tested my boat for the very first time today in the river, which was pretty nice. So I'm assuming she's just as anxious to get her boat on the water. So anyway, welcome to my channel.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So anyway, so with the pandemic going on and everything else, trying to get outdoors is, we're all going a little bit stir crazy. So I figured, why not just ask some questions, some people and with common interest. I mean, that's why we all, do what we do. We go to the shows and we hang out in the chat rooms and we do the YouTube thing because it's a common interest, So, yeah. So other than that, things are good with you?
Good idea.
Yeah, things are good with you?
Things are going very well. Yep, everything is going good.
So do you know when
I'm locked in the house, but I'm good.
we're all locked in the house. So I tell you, if I would have been able to get my boat, my hot tub, I would have done it already. But 14 feet doesn't do that. So do you know when you're going to be able to get your boat, or is it all on hold?
My boat, yeah. The boat was supposed to be ready for May, and I was actually just thinking today. I'm not even sure if they're going to have it ready for May because I've not actually tried contacting Swift. I know their sales offices are all closed. I assume they're not even producing the boats right now. I'm assuming,
yeah,
but I don't know. And I thought I should try contacting them next week to see what's up. Because they're not an essential service, so I would assume they would have had to shut down. Yeah. I didn't get any kind of email though from them as to what was happening, but I would assume everything's going to be delayed.
Yeah, which kind of is a kind of a bummer, but
it's a bummer. But I still have my pack boat.
Yeah,
so
that's true. You have a pack 13.6, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So. What got you interested in backcountry camping and canoeing, like for the very first time, like your very first trip?
Yeah. I know a lot of people that I see on Facebook, a lot of them, not all of them, but many of them have grown up in families where they were camping as kids or had fathers that were deep into canoeing and they learned how to canoe from their fathers. I didn't have that start, actually. I only front country camped. Maybe I could probably count on one hand how many nights I front country camped before I decided to go back country, and I did it solo too.
Okay.
And that was about 8 years ago. I had actually gone with my husband's brothers and sister and their families on a weekend camping trip up at T Lake in Algonquin. And I had noticed on the highway this great spot, absolutely fantastic spot that I thought, well, I've got to bring the nieces and nephews to go swimming there. So I packed them all up, and down Highway 60 we went, and we stopped off at what I know now is Fisherman's Point on Smoke Lake.
Okay.
And I remember all the kids were in the water having a great time. It was a gorgeous day. And I looked down Smoke Lake, and I thought, I need to go back there.
Yeah.
I need to head out that way. And a month later, I went camping backcountry my first time.
Nice.
Took me a month of doing a lot of reading and a lot of shopping because I had no gear. I mean, I had nothing. So I had to buy everything from sleep system to tent, bear bag, everything. I had to buy it all and research everything. I even had to Google how to start a fire. Everything.
But now you're doing it and
But
you
I
love
did
it.
it.
So, you know, now you can
I
do
do.
it.
I do.
You can do it whenever you want, except for now, because nobody can do
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, also, I was like, you know, we're like-minded people. We're you know, campers, and not just campers, but you know, extreme campers, because you know, backcountry,
Mm-hmm.
it can get, you know, extreme. What do you feel is the
Right.
difference between people that are drawn to this as opposed to people that are, you know, more city dwellers? Like, do you think there's like a, you know, chemical in the brain? Do you think there's a, you know, just, you know, there's got to be something
That we're missing a piece through?
That's what people tell me, but
I'll tell you. Yeah, and I have lots of people, particularly a lot of women, tell me too. They think I'm crazy, right? And I don't think it's necessarily city dwellers, because there's a lot of city dwellers who do backcountry too.
Yeah.
So I think you're making the comparison between somebody who's happy doing like a front country camp, as opposed to people that really, you know, pack that ultralight pack and head out for, you know, a week out in the wilderness, hopefully to see no other human being.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is we've overcome. I think first is we're perhaps drawn to a sense of adventure and discovery. And also we have worked on overcoming fears. It doesn't mean, because I'll be honest, I have people saying, aren't you afraid? Of course I'm afraid when I go out there. There are times I've been quite afraid.
Yeah.
But you get better at handling it and rationalizing it.
Yeah, stress management.
And that's through experience. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's lying in your hammock and saying that's just a squirrel. It's not a bear.
Oh yes, because those chipmunks, they sound like rhinoceros when they're outside your tent, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, honey. My husband's making me tea as I'm talking. What a good
Nice.
man.
I poured myself a beer
so
before we started. So
I don't think there's a lot that separates us. I think it's just we have a little bit more of a desire to to seek out adventure, and to discover, and again to want to overcome fears, to pursue a challenge.
okay,
That would be it.
nice. So during your response, you actually touched a little bit on the next question, was, you know, the packing ultralight and going out into the wilderness. There's a lot of people that bring a lot of stuff. You know, like I mean, I remember on my first trip, I think me and my buddy were both over 100 pounds each in our backpack, and it's just we brought everything. Why do you think that people have that? Like, what's your opinion on people overpacking for things? And at the same time, is there something that you bring personally that you really don't need to, but it's that thing that you're willing to carry the weight?
Oh, that's a good question. So first of all, yes, people bringing a lot of stuff. Why is that? Well, first, I think it's because we love our creature comforts, and we're accustomed to them, and it's very hard for us to give up the things we think we can't do without when we're in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that we misjudge. Oftentimes, more than anything, I think we misjudge just how difficult it will be to squeeze all that stuff into a pack and how heavy that stuff will be to carry.
Yeah,
or how many trips will
it's
you
just
do?
it's just a pound. Oh, it's only a pound. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you talk about those people that count every gram or ounce, those ounce weenie counters that they're shaving off half their toothbrush to save that very small portion of an ounce, right? They know what they're doing, though. They know that every ounce or every 8 ounces they manage to save off their pack saves them some calories.
Mhm.
So I think that's through research and also through experience. You learn the value of being able to cut weight from what you're carrying. I was lucky, like from the beginning, I knew that weight was an issue only because even from my first trip, all the reading I had done, and I read everything I possibly could, and tons of people's posts from trips and stuff. I realized very early on that it was important to go ultralight. And certainly because of my age, because I'm going to be 59 this summer, I can't carry a lot of weight any longer. When I was young, I could have done it, but not now.
Yeah.
So, so cutting weight is, for me, a big issue. I think there's still people out there, they've only gone once or twice, or they rarely ever go. They perhaps haven't invested the money into ultralight gear. That can be one of the reasons too. Big difference between my ultralight top quilt and somebody's, Canadian Tire value sleeping bag, right? There's a big difference in terms of the bulk and the weight. So, there's that. Gear that I think that I could do without, sometimes once in a while I bring my chair, not always.
Okay.
Sometimes I do, okay? Depends on the trip. I could probably always do without it, but sometimes I bring it. If it's a shorter trip or it's an in-out trip, I'll bring my chair. On longer trips, like I've done an 11-day trip, I did not bring my chair. It was unnecessary. It's like, I'll sit on a log, I'll sit on a rock, whatever.
Okay.
That's one piece of gear that I can do without, and I do once in a while. Other than that, probably I usually bring my titanium pot set, and I could get away with one pot as opposed to bringing the 2 of them, that nest, but I do bring the 2. So, there are things that I can do to really cut down some ounces from my pack, but I don't bring a lot of unnecessary stuff. I don't bring plates. I don't bring any plates at all. I cook and eat out of my pots. I keep things as simple as possible. Clothes, that's probably something I could cut down on.
Okay.
I don't bring a lot of clothes, but I have sometimes come back from trips and thought I probably didn't need 3 shirts. I could have gotten away with 2 or even 1 if I had to. So but other than that, I keep it light. I'm in 1 pack. That's it, 1 pack.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I actually scaled my pack down from a 120 to a 75, and I'm good for
Nice.
a week's worth of food in there. So, but speaking of trips, actually, you keep touching on the next question. You mentioned an 11-day trip. Do you prefer longer trips,
No.
shorter trips? And what's the longest trip you've been on, and what's the shortest trip you've been on?
Shortest trip, I've gone in 1 night and gone out, but it's almost not worth it. 2 nights is the minimum, really, to me, to make it worth the effort, because I'm in Barrie. So to drive up to a park like Algonquin, for example, or even to go to French River, it's a lot of effort and time to get. By the time you get out to a site and get set up and then pack up the next morning and go home, it's okay, but I'd rather have 2 nights and be able to have a full day in between. So typically my shortest would be 2 nights. My longest has been the 10-night, 11-day trip, which was out in Killarney, which was fantastic, absolutely spectacular trip. I prefer a slightly longer trip, there's just a lot of downtime. I find if I only go for 2 nights, I'm getting in there, I'm setting up, I'm maybe moving around from one campsite to another in those 2 days or 3 days, but I never really get quite into that place where you start to wind down and really chill and forget everything that's going on. Being out there for 5 days, 7 days, or longer, you really get to that point where everything just kind of fades away. All the things that you were worried about at home, all the stress you were dealing with kind of disappears until you get back in the car again.
Yeah, until you hit that cell phone service and the notifications start dinging.
Yeah.
Oh, so I had a train of thought there, and then so
That's okay.
on your trips, what's your favorite part of the trip, or like the favorite part of a day? Let's say, is it is it the paddling? Is it the portaging? Is it the
Definitely the paddling. Bar none, the paddling. I don't know. Is anybody really finding that the portage is their favorite part?
Oh, well,
I need to know who that person is.
I've had a portage be my favorite part because we were in the boat forever.
Really?
And it's just like I gotta get out of this boat. I gotta get out of this boat.
It was a break.
Yeah, it just breaks it up.
Yeah, I have to say I love the paddling. Now, mind you, I'm not. It's not that I don't like big lakes, but my favorite paddle is across really small lakes, or favorite is marshes. I would spend all day paddle. I have spent all day paddling through marshes.
Okay.
That is far none my favorite thing to do. And I will lollygag the whole time. I just like paddle and look at everything. I can just lose myself in there all day long. I've seen people. There's a marsh very close to us here, and I've seen people once in this marsh when I was there, and they were just like beelining it through it, and I'm like there for 8 hours, just slowly paddling, floating along. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
and I've had some really good paddles actually. In my 11-day trip at Killarney, I did paddle through a marsh between Gem Lake and Fish Lake, which was not a particularly large stretch, but it was just absolutely magical going through it. There were otters that were barking and growling and snorting at me, and blue herons flying. It was just absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife, right? So, there's stuff to look at.
Absolutely. Lots to look at.
Yeah. One of our first trip, one of our best days was just we were paddling like a little marshy creek between, I think it was Otter Slide and Big Trout, and we just kind of we were going with the current, and we just kind of kicked up our feet on top of the boat, and we just let the current take us, and we're just dipping the paddle in every now and then, and we were in no rush to get there, So I understand that. Okay. So other than like obviously we can't camp all the time, and I know by your posts on the Facebook forum that you do a lot of dehydrating and stuff like that. But other than that, what are your outdoor passions? Like when you can't go camping.
When I can't go camping?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. See, I'm not. I actually said this to my sister recently. I don't like going for walks. Maybe that's why I don't like the portages that much. I really don't like going for walks. I'm not a hiker. So for me, if I'm going out, I want to be camping, or I want to be on the water canoeing. That's what I love to do. Other than that, honestly, like I do quite a bit of dehydrating this year. I've started it this year, but I hadn't done any dehydrating up until this year. So you've been watching me recently post, haven't you?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the feeds going by every day, and it's like I'm like, hey, dehydrate. That reminds me, I have to start dehydrating. I usually start at the beginning of March for ice out. But with everything that's been going on, I'm just like, okay, well, I have the
Yeah, what
time
are we
now,
going to
so
do?
I'm not really in a rush.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other things I like to do is sometimes I will work on projects at home. I actually have one that I'm going to hopefully work on this coming week that's been sitting waiting to be done. But you know, there's little projects I'll take on, whether it's making an organizer for my ridge line. I made a acrylic door for my hot tent for this past winter. Like doing little projects that help just improve my setups or improve my camping kit in some way or shape. So that's basically what I do to occupy my time if I'm not camping.
Okay, nice. I'm a DIYer myself, so
Are you?
yeah.
I'm not a huge DIYer. I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to make my own underquilt or make my own top quilt, but it's like, eh.
Yeah, I've
I'll
done
support
I've done both.
business instead.
Yeah, I've done both, and it wasn't easy
Yeah.
to do, but yeah, it was actually before I purchased like a quality, like cottage vendor quilts. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if I like this, so I'm gonna just do my own, and if I like it, then I'll invest the money. But
One of these days, I've considered making a after having done some winter camping this winter for the first time, I considered making a hammock compatible winter tent, which there aren't a lot of them out there if you want to purchase one. So I'm still considering that, whether it's really a practical option, because what I discovered with winter camping this year is, and I liked it, I liked it very much, and I will definitely continue to do winter camping in a hot tent, but there's a very short window that you can actually do it.
yeah,
Because it's a large, heavy weight of gear that you have to pull in, and that means you need snow, so there are only so many months through the year you can actually do that.
yeah,
So I am looking at an alternative to, do I make my own tent that's light enough I can carry in with a hammock and still set up a portable ultralight stove with? So something in my head, but I'm not sure yet.
well, you guys might have some time on your hands in the upcoming weeks there. So.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so other than like video, like what I mean, anybody who's on YouTube is videoing their trips and whatnot. Do you have any other ways that you document your trips, like photos or a journal or?
Yeah, when I first started going out backcountry tripping, I was just taking pictures, and then I started writing a journal. But then I decided to get rid of the journal because it was just extra equipment and extra weight. I was trying to pare down as much as I could. And then it became, well, I gave that up, but instead I got a GoPro and a whole bunch of other equipment and stuffed that in my sack too, which weighed way more. So I am down to just using my phone now. That is the only way I document my trips. I use my cell phone. I have a Samsung S10, and it takes great video, great photos, and it's fairly water safe up to, I think it's, is it a meter? So I have dumped it in a meter of water, and it's been fine. So
and it's something you're going to bring anyway, right?
More than once. What's that?
I said it's something you're going to bring anyway, unless you leave unless you leave it in your vehicle, which wouldn't make any sense because
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No. So that's all I'm using. I was actually reading a book the other day, and throughout the book they were talking about writing out in a notebook a travel log, and I thought, geez, maybe I should start that again. So it was something I started thinking about next week. Do I start doing that again? Because I think it is a beautiful thing to keep a written account of where you've been and what you've done and what you've seen and what you've experienced. I think that is really a wonderful way to document it. But it's not just the bringing the paper and the pencil to do it. It's also taking the time to do it, because it is quite time consuming too, right? But maybe I'll get back to that. We'll see.
Okay, so we're doing this Q&A here, right? So this is the first time we've really met. We both make our comments on the forum on Facebook and whatnot. But when you meet somebody who's into the same interest, be it somebody who's either on YouTube or just somebody that you happen to meet at, let's say, the Outdoor Adventure Show that you just strike up a conversation with, what's a question that you ask them? Is it a question that, you're just curious to maybe improve your things, or that you're just curious about?
Yeah, for me, the top thing that I ask people is, where's your favorite place to camp? Where do you like going camping? Because I'm always interested in knowing what else is accessible to me. New places that I can explore. My goal has always been to try and see as much of Algonquin as I can. That's where I started, and so I have a bit of a love for Algonquin, because that's what inspired me. But I have been to French River, I've been to Killarney, I've gone up to the Kawartha, but there's so many other places to visit. I have yet to get up to Temagami, so hopefully I hope to do that this year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen this year. But there's lots of other places. I mean, I just discovered the Queen Elizabeth wetlands in the last year, that there was such a thing. So there's all kinds of places that I don't know about. So that's what I like to ask people, places that they like to go that I might not know about. Nice.
That's always good to know, because, backups especially, and it's
Absolutely.
Curious. With what's going on right now, I mean, I know that the major parks are closed, like provincial parks are closed. I'm curious to see if something like the Queen Elizabeth would be closed, because it's a non-operational park. So
I think I think everything is closed now, even Crown Land.
Really?
I don't even know that there's access to Crown Land anymore.
Wow.
But regardless, I mean, for myself, I've taken the position that I'm going to stay close to home and family at this point in time until things are good.
Yeah.
I know the government is hoping and asking people to stay within their communities. So that means staying in Barrie to me.
Yeah.
So not getting in the car and driving an hour or 2 hours away to go somewhere. So I'm trying to respect that.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's heartbreaking for those of us who want to be outdoors, but it's necessary at this time.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky. I have a huge backyard with trees in it, so if ever I want to hang my hammock overnight, it's not a problem.
I have a place in back too to hang my hammock too. So.
It's always nice.
I'm going to do that actually.
Well, actually, we are the weekend, aren't we? So not that it makes a difference at this point, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite YouTube personalities to watch? And not necessarily the YouTuber themselves, but it could be somebody that just joins them on trips, or it could be them.
Okay. So I don't spend a lot of time watching particular YouTubers a lot. There aren't a lot, I've watched a lot of different YouTubers, but I don't necessarily say I've watched a handful of them regularly.
Okay.
There are only a couple. First of all, Kevin Allen, absolutely the first YouTuber that I discovered when I started camping, and I was Googling everything and YouTubing everything. He came up a lot, and so he had a lot to teach me, which was very helpful for me, being new to the activity and having to learn everything. It was great discovering his YouTube channel. The other one that I've discovered only in the last couple of years is Martin Pine, who I count Martin as a friend, super nice guy and very smart and knows a whole lot, and I respect a lot of what he puts out there on YouTube. It's always got great content. I love watching Martin. I've watched, what is her name? Lily. Camper Lily, is it?
Survivor Lily?
Survivor Lily, that's it. I haven't watched her in the last year or so. I haven't seen anything from her, but every once in a while I like to watch her too, because it's kind of nice to watch, some girls out there doing their thing, right? Because it's a lot of men. If you go to YouTube, there are a lot of men putting out things on YouTube, but there aren't a lot of women. Camper Christina's another one.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched many of her videos,
I enjoy her videos.
On YouTube. Yeah, absolutely, and very inspirational. And I think we, as women, it's great that there's a representation of women out there, inspiring other women to do the same, right?
Well, that's actually one of the reasons why when I started, getting the concept for just doing this Q&A with people is having not just men, having women as well. So I do have a couple of women lined up, you being one of them, obviously. And because to me, it's not just a guy thing to do, and it's not just an old person thing to do. Like I like when, I see couples out. I like when I see young kids out. I like, it's one of those things where it's
everyone.
like, it's for everybody, and it's nice to see other people enjoying the same things you do. Like it's that common thing.
Yeah, I think the difference is there are certainly a lot of women that are going out there solo now. Certainly more than the first time I went out was in 2012. So I'm only 8 years into this, really.
Mm-hmm.
And there are more women doing it now than I think when I started in 2012, and probably a lot more than there were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think it has been a predominantly male-dominated activity. Not because men are better at it or push women out. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, I think, as women, sometimes feel a little more afraid, and I think our generation is starting to overcome some of those fears and realize we're a little fierce inside, and we got what it takes to go out there by ourselves.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's nice to see, like, like you said, there are people doing trips like that, like yourself, Camper Christina, Chris Croce and Julia. It's cool. Like I said, it's not just a man-woman thing. It's not just a older or younger. It's for everybody. So.
And there's a lot of ways of enjoying it too. Like I've done even as a backcountry camper, I still do front country camp too.
Yeah.
I would RV camp. I would do all of it because it's different levels of enjoyment and different experiences either way, either activity you participate in. Mm-hmm. Right? And I mean, I've seen a lot of people that, backcountry camping is just not possible for them any longer, right?
Yeah.
We all get to that point where it's like just too physically challenging, perhaps, right? So there's lots of different ways to enjoy the outdoors and the parks and the beauty that's out there. It doesn't have to be backcountry, but for those of us that are able to do it, get out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know what you mean though. I'm the same way. I'll do RV camping. Like I have a huge trailer with all the amenities in it. And because I'm in Quebec, and here we have what's called construction holidays. So you're pretty much forced to take 2 weeks, last week of July and the first week of August. So our pattern, well, it's not everybody. It's anybody that's in the construction industry, right? And even though I'm not in construction, I fall into that category. So usually what I do is we'll go for a week. Like last year we went to the Martin River in Temagami with the RV, with me and my wife, and then because my wife can't do the backcountry camping, the fall, like we literally pulled in with the trailers, and the next day me and my buddy had the boats on the truck, and we spent the second week in Algonquin. So
nice.
Actually, not. I couldn't do it that's true. I couldn't do it this year, but anyway, that's a long story. So I'll do that, like that, breaking it up, like where, some long weekends I'll do the Algonquin trip, and shorter weekends I'll just do the RV thing,
Yeah. And RV is great too. I've gone out. My sister and I make an annual camping trip. It's not by RV. We front country camp up at Lake Superior, and it's great because we can bring all the best food, right, and
Yeah.
all the drinks you want, right? You have all the luxuries, so it's just a different experience. That's all.
Yeah, it's the glamping, right? It's like I said, I do the RV
Yeah,
thing,
it is. It is
and
the
it's
glamping.
having, the ability to go into your freezer and get a bowl of ice cream because it's too hot outside.
Nothing. No shame in it. There's no shame.
Uh, I remember last year I went with one of my friends, and he spent we just went for a couple of nights in my RV, and he's like, "Where's a pot?" I'm like, "What do you want a pot for?" He's like, "I want to make my oatmeal." I'm like, "Just put it in a bowl, put it in a microwave." He's like, "You have a microwave?" he couldn't he couldn't believe that I had a. I'm like, "Yeah, put it in a bowl, put it in a microwave. You don't need to boil water, man." So.
Don't need to bring the whisper light stove, right?
No Trangia.
So if you're in Quebec, which I know from your Facebook, you're in Quebec, you go up to Algonquin a lot. You go up to the east side a lot, and probably the top up at the north end.
That's what we do on like long weekends, right? So we'll hit the east
Okay.
end, like we'll go to Acre or Canoe Lake, like so, depending on what we want to. But normally when we go for long periods, we try and go to the west side. We're like, if most of our ice out trips have been in at the Tim River or at
Oh, nice.
Magnetawan. So because
Yeah,
that's
nice.
something that we're like, okay, we have the extra time to drive those extra 4 hours, so we might as well see a part of the park we hadn't seen before. So we've kind of
Right.
covered the middle of the park, so we haven't been down as
Yeah.
low as Canoe Lake because to us there's too many people there,
Right.
and we haven't been
Yeah.
all the way up to Kiosk yet. So those
Yeah.
are coming. Those are coming. So
Yeah. Kiosk I did 2 years ago. It was lovely. Did a whole loop through there. It was wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're always trying to add places we haven't seen yet. So even if we're
Exactly. And that's my husband and I like to travel too, and we talk about this often. Some people like to go to Acapulco every year on their vacation, right?
Mhm.
Whereas we like to go somewhere different. And camping's the same with me. I'm very tempted to want to visit the same places again,
Yeah.
only because sometimes the memory of them is so fantastic. You have this spectacular experience on them, these wonderful sun-filled days, and you want to recreate them and go back to the same place. But I've learned over time that you can never go back. That day lives in your memory forever, and
Mhm.
it's going to be beautiful forever, but you're never going to experience it exactly the same way again. So it's better to try somewhere else and have a new fantastic memory. So
Yeah, no,
that's what I aim for.
yeah. See, we'll repeat certain places, but not because of like you said, it's nice to have the memory, but
Mm-hmm.
either to bring somebody that heard about our memory that was like, oh, I got to go there, and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll go back, no problem. Or in one case, we had one of our friends. We had a portage. I think it was from, I can't remember. It was to Prue Lake, and it was like a 4.5 kilometer portage. There's a cart trail off to the side. I can't
Wow.
remember what lake to what lake it was. And he had it in his head. He's like, okay, that thing kicked my ass the first time. He's like, I have to go back. I have to, do it now that I have the experience. Now that I'm a little bit more in shape now. So they did that
Nice.
last year. So
Nice. Nice. So it went better for him the second time.
yeah, that's another long story. I don't even think they hit that portage, but they got evacuated from the park. So yeah, it was yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, so it's like
yeah, that's
a
not
whole
good.
other story. But so pretty much boils down to one final question, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the future of backcountry camping is? Like, not necessarily in the situation we're in right now, but just your vision of it in like say 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and there are probably people that are a lot more qualified to answer it than I am. But I will say that it seems that we've done a great job on YouTube, and the government has also done a great job advertising camping and the beauty of Ontario parks or parks across Canada. And that has brought a lot of people out
Hmm.
who, weekend warriors that may not really understand the responsibility of the undertaking of going backcountry camping. I mean, I've been on um, uh, big lakes and seen the young guys from the city with their uh, um, coolers full of beer piled on top in their canoes, thinking, I hope you get down Opiongo okay.
Yeah.
Like, really, there's a lot of that. And it worries me that we're going to see more and more weekend warriors that really don't understand the responsibilities they have when they are backcountry camping, observing rules, that they're there for everyone's safety as well as the safety of the park and its inhabitants.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that if this activity continues to grow and we get more and more density of population in the parks, which I can see happening in the next few years, that the government will find a way to implement better education of the public and also hold them accountable. Because, there's so much many of us have seen go on in the parks with people that don't observe policy, rules, and regulations.
Yeah. Well, it's
That's the thing that
sorry.
worries me, is
Yeah.
just that density as it continues to grow, and places like Algonquin will be places that I probably won't visit so much if it continues to be filled to the brink with people.
Hmm. Well, I understand what you're saying. It's got like to me to let's say Lake Opiongo, like it's a little
Mhm.
bit easier to break the rules there because it's on an access point. You don't have to go, you don't have to do any portages. So for me to see,
Yeah.
like, let's say somebody breaks the rules and brings in, a 6-pack of beer and there's cans that are left around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
But to me, what sucks even more is when you're a couple of portages in and you see cans of beer left lying around, you know?
A couple years ago, I did. I've done this trip a couple times. Spring fishing. I've gone into Pine Tree Lake, and it's a 2-kilometer portage in. And I literally packed out a bag full of crushed beer cans from
Yeah.
my campfire site, and then I took a hike into Leaf Lake, which was behind it, which is a non-accessible lake. I bushwhacked through to the lake to find beer cans strewn all over the place. And it's like, why, right? So I just see that becoming more of a problem in the next few years unless
Yeah.
we, in some way, educate better. I'm a big proponent of setting an example. And I've posted it on YouTube and stuff, how we should and should not behave
Yeah.
when we're out there. But I think education is really important, and also trying to hold people accountable, which is very difficult. I understand that. The wardens have a very difficult job to catch anybody dumping beer cans.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I think a lot of it is let go, too. I think we could be doing more.
Well, I think as like just by starts like us doing our part as people that are
Mhm.
presenting this to people, like being a YouTuber as well,
Yeah.
mentioning stuff like this and the importance of it.
Yeah.
Saying like and I think, like you said, like when before you started backcountry camping, and so did I. I did the same thing. I did my research. I watched the Kevin Callan videos. I watched the
Mhm.
My Self Reliance. I watched the Joe Robinet, and those guys kind of taught me what I was going to expect and how
Yeah.
to, kind of follow
Yeah.
the rules. Like, you know, you go through the rules, and you know Algonquin has a can ban, and you know you're not allowed glass, and you know you so. But by us presenting this to people as well, saying, look, like it's important. You know, if we don't want to lose this, you know, beautiful thing that we have, and turn it into
Yeah.
the same thing that we have in the city, like we have to do this. You know.
Yeah.
So
And absolutely, you know, having those videos up on YouTube, because I learned a lot from them, but I also learned a lot from reading the website from the park, what the
yeah,
rules and regulations were. And that's where I think the parks could be doing a better job, because, I mean, when you go into the park, really, you sign in and you give them your money for your trip, and they give you your pass for the week you're out there. What really did they do at that point of contact to educate you
yeah,
and say, are you aware these are the following rules of the park? No beer, or no cans, no glass, no dumping of garbage, yada, 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 okay? I don't see that happening, and I think that's an opportunity. And yeah, you and I know it, and it would be, you know, why are you telling me this? I already know it, but how many people there aren't observing
yeah,
it, or maybe even don't know, that
yeah.
need to be told?
It's true, and I mean, it's the same as like you said, that like there is only so much they could do to extend, right, with the Rangers. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, they could
Yeah,
present it when you're getting your per. I've actually mentioned to my friend, like, we're coming in with Quebec plates, right? And every time we're there, they're like, "Are you going to be fishing?" And we're like, "Yeah." "Oh, do you want one of our fishing surveys?" They never once
yeah,
asked us to see our permits.
yeah. You have a
And we
license.
we
Yeah,
we actually buy our Ontario license. We don't even buy a Quebec license here because we don't fish in
yeah,
Quebec anymore. So we purchased it.
yeah,
But like I said, to me, that's just the proper thing to do. It's but not once. It's like, oh, can I see your fishing license? No, it's here. Do you want a survey?
yeah,
So, but I mean,
yeah. And actually, no, that's a great point also, because I've thought that in the past too. Why am I just getting handed this survey and nobody ever asks you about your license at
yeah,
all? There's not going to be any park ranger or warden on the water asking to see anybody's license.
yeah,
I've never seen it, ever. I don't know if it ever happens. I know you're in big trouble if it does happen and you don't have one on you. And by the
yeah,
way, I've applied for mine for this year. So if you haven't, get yours ordered just in case you
yeah,
need it this year. I'm hoping. But that's exactly just another example of how I think the government, aka the parks, could be doing a better job at educating
hmm
and enforcing and ensuring that they are making sure people understand that this is the expectation. I mean, there's not going to be a warden out there looking over your shoulder. We all know that,
no,
but
yeah.
certainly we need to put that in people's minds all the time, that they are accountable.
No, sometimes you're lucky if you come across one person in a week. Never mind a park ranger.
Yeah, I'm actually happy when that happens.
Yeah, so are we.
That's a
Yeah,
good camping
yeah,
trip. Yeah, yeah. I've been really lucky, actually, Mark, in the past, because I'm retired now. I took early retirement last year. But up till then, my job allowed me to take, I worked on weekends most of the time, with occasional weekends off, so a lot of my camping was through the week. So I've been very lucky to avoid a lot of crowds when I'm camping, and I shoulder season camp a lot. So that's always, in my books, the best time to camp anyway.
yeah,
So I don't come across a lot of people, and it's not unusual to go 3, 4, 5 days and not see another human being, which is nice.
yeah. That's how. That's
Not
why.
that I don't like
That's
people, I
no.
do. Yeah,
That's we do it to get away from people. So
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well,
So
I don't know to get away from people as much as it is to get with yourself. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's
To
true.
get into your own headspace and just to be with yourself, which is very uncomfortable, I think, sometimes for people. To be just alone with themselves is kind of challenging.
Well, that's the question thing. So I hope you enjoyed it. But I don't know.
Awesome. I did. Thanks. It was very nice talking to you. now, you know, I can put a voice and face to the person who's on Facebook.
Yeah,
So hopefully I'll see you at one of the outdoor shows in the future.